Good morning, everyone. My name is Aaron Beck. I am the proud director of this wonderful group of kids here. This is Tulsa Youth Opera, which is Tulsa Opera's training program for kids in grades 3 through 12. We have kids who are 8 and 9 all the way up to kids who are 18 and 19 years old. It is a tuition-free program paid for by donors in the Tulsa community. And this is our 20th year of singing at Tulsa Opera, and it's Tulsa Opera's 70th year, so it's a big year for us. This month, June 16th and 17th, we'll be performing a brand new work called Pinocchio. It's an opera version of Pinocchio, and it's the U.S. premiere. And I'm gonna have the kids sing a little scene from you. In this scene, Pinocchio has been made by G.R.D.A. We have Pinocchio here, Niara Kwanzaa, and G.R.D.A. is Ethan Shaw. And they're gonna sing. It's after Pinocchio has kind of come to life, and he's really hungry. And he just wants some food, and he wants somebody to pay attention to him. Enter the chorus of crickets, who will help him find it.
Life is a show, I'm a stranger to stage fright. Feet that twist out, doors I can fling. Take a step left, turn to the right. If you've got legs, well then life's made for dancing.
Calm down, just sit tight, my nerves are slightly shaken. Just yesterday you could not speak unless I was mistaken.
I'm hungry, I'm thirsty, my stomach needs filling.
One more mouth to feed doesn't sound really thrilling.
Some leftover cheese rind, some leftover bread crust I might as well stick to eating sawdust. Quite easy to please with macaroni and cheese, or I can fill myself up with pizza and 7-Up. Of course, a hot dog with mustard and ketchup, a perfect matchup for the French fries to top it all off. If you only knew how much I'm craving some tiramisu. Tell me how much longer before someone feeds you.
A young mind requires education.
What's the point of school when I'm dying of starvation?
In this life there's no avoiding subtraction.
Laziness is my plan of action.
Learning increases your hunger for knowledge.
Will I eat better when I get to college? My head is bursting from all these gymnastics.
You're mistaken, life is no bed of roses. Endless dictation and memorization, staring out the window, dreaming of vacation. Endless dictation and memorization, staring out the window dreaming of vacation.
Verb conjugation, Italian translation, mummification, the planet's rotation.
Verb conjugation, Italian translation. Mummification, the planet's rotation.
Thank you so much. If you have kids or grandkids who enjoy theater and who enjoy singing, please check out Tulsa Youth Opera. It's a tuition-free program. And if you have kids and grandkids who just like a good show, Pinocchio, June 16th and 17th at the Tulsa PAC. Go to tulsaopera.com. We hope to see you there. Thank you.
Wow. That was amazing. Last week, Levi. This week, Tulsa Youth Opera. We've got some major talent in this city, don't we? Thank you, youth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So, welcome to the Rotary Club of Tulsa, where service above self is more than a motto, it's a way of life. Here at the Rotary Club of Tulsa, we are serving the needs and making a difference in people's lives here in Tulsa and around the world. Thank you for joining us today. In addition to Tulsa Youth Opera Day, today is the 74th anniversary of D.Day, when the Allied troops stormed Normandy to start freeing the people in northwestern Europe. And you know, on days like this, I always remind myself that I need to be doing a better job of thanking those veterans who have served in our armed forces that come across my path every day. So if you see a veteran today, let's take the opportunity to tell them thank you for their service. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our program started. Matt Davis is going to lead us in our song and pledge. Sarah Fry is going to lead us in our invocation, and then Becky Fields will introduce our visitors. Matt?
In honor of all of our veterans, let's sing our national anthem today. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so fondly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please pray with me. Dear God, we come before you today with humility on a day that we recognize on our earthly home as D-Day, the 74th anniversary of the Allied landings at Normandy. We thank you for the opportunity for this fellowship as we gather as Rotarians in service to our community and to one another. As we work in our community and in the world to improve lives and minister to those in need, we ask you to give us the endurance to keep going and keep helping, even in the times when we feel our energy fading. We ask you to give us the vision to see far beyond our earthly understanding. And God, today, for the leaders in this room, we ask you to give us the wisdom and the humility to know that in our doing and in our leading and in our helping others, there are times in our lives when we are the one in need of ministry. During those times, give the leaders in this room the courage to reach out to the friends around them in the room so that they can have the honor and the blessing of ministering in our lives. Bless this food that it may nourish our bodies, and bless the hands that made it. We offer you thanks and praise now and always, and all God's people said, amen.
You may be seated. We love to take this time to welcome our visitors and visiting Rotarians to our club. Thank you so much for attending Rotary Club of Tulsa. We know your time is valuable, and we just want to say hello. So if you'll hold your applause till the end, and if you'll stand as well as the Rotarian who brought you, we would like to look at you and say hi. So Liz Coleman is here with Andy Coleman. Tracy Priddy is an attorney with Tom Payne. Daniel Johnson from NSU is here with Michael Turner. Charles Groom with Max Electric is here with Jack McGlumpy. Larry Gregory with Garver is here with Mike Homan. Dan Sullivan with G.R.D.A. Has a guest with him, sorry about that, John Wiscarver. Sorry, John. Austin Zellner with CARE ATC is here with Dana Burks. And Amanda Jesperson with John Howland is a member of John's law firm. Welcome, guest. We also have two visiting Rotarians today, Andy Coleman from Owasso. Hi, Andy. And I am very excited to announce Otis Winters from the Rotary Club of Grove, a friend of mine who is actually coming back home to Tulsa, so it'll be a familiar face to many of you. Hi, Otis. Thank you for coming.
That's a one clapper there, okay. Thanks, Matt, Becky, and Sarah, and Tom. Thank you for your tickling the ivories there for us. You know, there's a lot of people that volunteer a lot of hours each week to make sure these programs are run smoothly. Let's take a moment to thank all of our meeting volunteers this week. And welcome guests. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. You know, here at the Rotary Club of Tulsa, you're having lunch with Tulsa's finest business and community leaders, and we're doing some pretty neat things out in our community here in Tulsa and around the globe. We would love to have you join us, and hope you'll give consideration to that. Now let's thank our meeting sponsors whose sponsorships help defray the cost of running our club. This week's sponsors are James Adair with Claude Neon Federal, Ed Monette with Monette & Associates, Kevin Moody with Moody's Jewelry, and John O'Connor, Tom Klenda, and Daniel Ketchum with Hall Estelle. As always, we encourage you to do business with your fellow Rotarians. Yeah. Okay, some announcements. We have another social event coming up next Thursday, June 14th at Napa Flats from 5:30 to 7. We're going to have a meet and greet where you can network and have just a rip-roaring good time. We're going to meet in the bar area of the restaurant for drinks and appetizers, and each person will be responsible for your own expenses, so bring your credit card, please. And, you know, this is another great opportunity to bring a prospective member and introduce them to some great Rotarians, so we hope you'll give consideration next Thursday, June 14th, 5:30 to 7 at Napa Flats. IBA Banquet is next 2 weeks out, and we still have tickets available, so if you have not purchased your tickets to the IBA Banquet, there's still time. Tables are filling up. Okay, so you have some fluorescent green sheets on your table. It's time for membership dues and meal selection for next Rotary year, which starts July 1st. You can either go on D.A.C.D., and I think you either got an email this morning. Okay, I was behind on my emails. Should have gotten an email from Tommy Lynn explaining how to sign up on D.A.C.D., or you can fill out this form. And then if you want to do that, leave that with Tommy Lynn out at the guest table when you leave. Now, I want to be clear, because we've got a new due structure this year, and I know it's confusing. If you just want to pay your dues and pay for your meals each week as you go along, that's fine. You have that choice now. You don't have to pay all your meals up front. You can pay as you go, so that, for meals, that's an option, okay? Okay. We have one committee meeting after our meeting today. Long-range planning will meet in room 233. So long-range planning 233. We have a new member we're going to get introduced today. Sorry, Tricia. Tricia Kirkstra is going to introduce us to our newest member, Ashley Whalen Bullock. John, thank you again for doing the new member orientation day. Appreciate you.
Thank you, President Mike. Hi, everybody. I have a great pleasure in introducing Ashley today, Ashley Whalen Bullock. So I've got 3 things I want to tell you about her: the attorney side, the gymnast side, and the international human rights side. So Ashley relocated recently to Tulsa. She was living in the Oklahoma City area for about 10 years. She is a full-time practicing attorney, and she owns her own law firm. What Rotary Club doesn't need another attorney, right? Her focus is on family law and probate. The gymnast side, she's one of the head coaches at Ultimate Gymnastics. Gymnastics is a passion of Ashley's. When she coaches the girls, she focuses on being a really strong female role model, provides encouragement, support, sometimes tough love when it's needed. She mentors them through all aspects of their life, whether it is family struggles, communication problems, learning a new skill, working through their fear, or setting goals. I think Coach Henry Iba would be very proud of you, and you're following his footsteps. International human rights side. This is the thing that I think is really, really neat. In 2013, Ashley went to Belize on a group trip to conduct research, and she drafted a report on human rights issues that were faced by the indigenous people of Belize. Her section focused on education and women's rights. This report was submitted, accepted, and cited by the Universal Periodic Review, the UPR, remember that, an organization of the United Nations, which you all know is headquartered in Geneva, Switzerland. The UPR process is where the UN takes a record and they provide recommendations and guidance to help the UN tackle and change human rights violations around the world. So that year, Ashley also lived in Geneva and worked at the UN, and she got to monitor sessions and she produced reports for the organization. So I think that's really cool. Now, one more thing, her Rotary connection. So through her father, Alan Whalen, which many of us know and love, Alan, he was a member of our club for a long time, principal at Bishop Kelly, and he was our conduit for our exchange students through BK, which we still enjoy a really wonderful relationship with BK now. That's where she got her love of the international world and of travel. She was an exchange student twice, Germany and Austria, a runner-up for our district scholarship program for college students. Her family hosted over 15 exchange students when she was growing up. 3 of her brothers were exchange students sponsored by our club. That's how I got to know Ashley, because I'm friends with one of those Rotecs, Zach, who's a dear family friend of ours now. So I'm just thrilled to be able to get to know her better, and I hope you do too. And please help me welcome her as I give Ashley her name badge, her pin, and her 4-way test.
We're required to do that by contract, so. Ashley, welcome. It's going to be great to have you on board. Look forward to getting to know you better and working with you. You've got a great background. I can see where we can get you plugged in real easily. So welcome. Okay, Bob McKenzie. There you are, Bob. I have a side mic announcement. Bob's going to go on a little bike ride here in a couple weeks.
Maybe. Thank you, President Mike. I leave for Oceanside in the morning. We've got all the team's gear, and we're headed out there. And I could not do this without the help of many of you in this room, and some of you in particular. The race starts June 16th. That's 1 week from this Saturday. We'll go off about 12:18. Yesterday, District 1910 in Europe gave us 45,000 euros for polio. Thank you. That puts our total at almost 900,000 this year. So we've almost doubled last year. And that means 1.5 million kids will be immunized against polio. So I brought something with me today. I brought a $100 bill with me. And I wonder, what is this for you? Is it dinner and a movie? A sporting event, maybe? Maybe a concert? I don't know what they call it. Maybe lattes for a week. Well, you probably couldn't get lattes for a whole week on $100. You might be sitting there and going, if I just give it to Bob, maybe he would shut up. Let me tell you what $100 does given to Polio Plus. It ensures 166 kids will not contract polio. This Monday, you got an email from the district from me. There's a link on there that you can go to and you can give a donation. And so I hope you will. We've had that site really heated up this week. And I want to know, will you give us $100 for polio? Will you do it today? Thank you so much.
Bob, thank you for your passion. That's amazing how much money you've raised this year. Kudos to you and your team, and best wishes, good luck. I know you'll keep us posted while you're on your ride, and we wish you Godspeed. Okay, Sarge. Hey, Charles, did you notice that we put some separation between you and the youth entertainment this week?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I thought you might.
I got upstaged tremendously last week. Yeah, and they were pretty good today, too.
They were pretty good today, too.
Yeah. Well, you stay right there. So Mike comes to me, and he says, we're going to have the River Dam Authority guy here, Mr. Sullivan. And he says, let's punch it up a bit. Can you find a beaver mascot? I reached out to Terry. She didn't return my phone call from the zoo. So anyway... So I'm coming up with the best possible situation. And you realize how hard it is on short notice to find a beaver?
I would have thought that would have been, like, common.
Well, I've done my best, so here we go.
It doesn't look like a costume.
If I can even get it off. There we go.
It's a plastic bag. Oh.
There he is. What do you think?
That's a beaver?
Are you okay with that? Well, technically, no.
Technically? What is it?
Technically, well, it's a monkey that I was able to try to draw in the beaver teeth, but I think I've pretty much made him into Hitler.
Yeah. I'm thinking most teeth are like white, maybe.
Yeah, I didn't have a white marker, and it was hot and it was late. And next thing you know, we've got.
Well, they both have tails, so.
Well, it is an anniversary of D.A, so here we go.
Nice try. Nice try.
So. He's going to try to hang out with me, so we'll get this taken care of. Are you okay with him hanging out with me? There's nothing more adult-like.
So we have a choice?
Oh, I love this job. All right, here we go. First up, Ainsley Stanford, $101. $50 for 50 years with Northwestern Mutual. $47 for 47 years of marriage. That's incredible. And $4 for 2 children and 2 grandchildren. I'm assuming the budget for the children and the grandchildren will be bigger, but unfortunately, they're pretty expensive as it is, so we'll swing it. But Mr. Stanford, thank you very much. Are you here somewhere? Thank you very much. All right, next up. All right, our Rotarian of the Day, Michael Turner. His family participated in the state games over in Stillwater for Special Olympics. We have a Rotarian who puts this together, Adrian DeWint, so it's really kind of a cool situation. His daughter, Megan, actually, let's see here, she did 25-meter partner walk, and she came in, she got gold. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then got 8th place in the softball throw, and her sister, Megan, I believe, was her coach. So that's a really cool situation. So shout out really to Special Olympics and what the great thing that they do here in our state. So thank you very much for bringing attention. Don't stare at me. I'm telling you, don't stare at me. It makes me nervous. Okay. Let's see here. Next up, Daniel Ketchum, $100. This is his daughter, Lauren. Now, what you're seeing, this is really a shout out to John Hallen. He's not here today, but he took, oh, there he is. Okay, took the picture of this, and this is his daughter, actually making a goal save with about 90 seconds left to save Booker T. Washington beating Cassia Hall for the 5A state championship. That's pretty cool.
Nice.
Right? Very cool. Put that on a baseball soccer card. There you go. All right, so thank you very much for that. But also another $100 for Bob McKenzie's race, which we just heard from Bob, so wants to support that. He again brought out a really great picture of Bob. And if you'll notice up there, this is Bob struggling at the 30-mile mark for Tulsa. So if he's coming from California, I imagine he's struggling quite a bit at that point. But that does begin this week from Saturday, so we give our support to Bob in his race across America. So thank you very much for that as well. Sarge Picture of the Week. Okay, so here we are out at the some type of amusement park. The great thing, and the reason I selected this is, and it's kind of hard to see, but family pickups top. Suddenly the dinosaur comes out of nowhere, and here's how much you're valued as a small child. Everybody on the bottom relieves the child for the dinosaur. I mean, it's just amazing how everybody ran. So anyway, Terry for the Lost Kingdom out at the Lost Zoo, we want pictures like this because I'm certain that happens out there as well. What? Wait. No, I am not a licensed proctologist, okay? So let's leave it alone. Okay. All right, so anyway, this is your doing. It gets out of control, right?
Yeah, well, I need to be careful what I ask for, don't I?
You really do.
You would think I would know after 11 months of this. Yeah.
That's right. So anyway, we are down to that close to the end. Anyway, any more fines coming up, give me a holler and be happy to help you, and he'd be happy to help you too, right? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Charles. Oh, well. What can I say? Okay, so I'm going to say that I'm going to introduce our Rotarian of the day, Michael Turner. Michael joined Rotary in 2011. He is a special education teacher at Memorial Junior High, and he is co-founder and executive director for Project Special Courage. And he served 8 years in the United States Marine Corps, earning the rank of captain. And thank you for your service, Michael. Appreciate you. Michael is a Paul Harris Fellow, and this year he's serving admirably on the Membership Recruiting Committee, Visitors Committee, and Shop with the Cop Committee. Please join me in welcoming to the podium Rotarian of the Day, Michael Turner.
Thank you, President Mike, very much. It's such an honor for me today to have one of my very dear and long-term friends, Dan Sullivan, with us. And Tim Caldwell and I were joking before the program. Tim and I have been talking about trying to get Dan here for about 3 years. And then somebody said something about when the creek don't rise, and then the creek rose, and G.R.D.A came in. So we're very thankful for that. Dan and I met 20-something years ago through NSU. Dan graduated from NSU with his bachelor's degree, and after a few years came back to serve on our Foundation Board of Trustees while I was at Northeastern, and we still see each other to this day. I'm on the alumni board. Thank you to Daniel Johnson, our alumni director. Little shout out to NSU there, right? And so I'm so blessed that we see each other at our alma mater, but also just to see the great things that NSU alums do out there, and a lot of times that it just doesn't get noticed. But after Dan graduated from NSU, he super smart and went on to law school at TU, practiced law for 23 years, I believe, and then took the bold step to serve in the Oklahoma House of Representatives. And he served District 71 for 7 years, and including during that time, he was selected as majority floor leader very, very quickly. The more you get to know Dan, the more you get to know that there's some folks that are just innate leaders, and they do it so well that others notice, and he wasn't always happy about those selections, but he did lead a lot of interesting conversations. Conversation or fight, I can't remember what it is. But after his service in the Oklahoma State Legislature, he was selected to be the CEO, Chief Executive Officer of Grand River Dam Authority, or G.R.D.A., and he's been in that position since 2011, which has been, I think, wonderful for many of us who've known Dan for such a long time, plus for some of us that enjoy going to the water like Illinois River, perhaps. G.R.D.A. now manages those places like the Illinois River, obviously Grand Lake, Lake Hudson, Holloway Reservoir, and other things. So it's nice that you have champions through the G.R.D.A. that are helping out those other bodies of water who may not have as many resources and as many advocates on their behalf. And I'll keep this quick because you'll see the professional side from either the website or during his presentation, but just really on a personal note, ever since I've known Dan, I've always known him just to be that strong leader role, but also a leader with great humility and compassion for others. And when you are in the room with Dan, and I used to spend a lot of time at the state capitol when he served in the legislature, and he would let me hang out in his office and use his fax machine and all that, back when we had fax machines. But with all of the chaos and disruptions going around us, Dan would still make you, whoever you were, standing in front of him, feel like you're the most important person in that conversation and in that room. And that's just not on the surface. That's just the way he is. You are the most important person to him. And if he says he'll try to help you, he will. And the next time you hear from him, he would have at least researched it and to see what he could have done for you, whatever it may be. And that still continues to this day as his position with G.R.D.A. And he may not remember this, but 17 years ago, after Madison was born, I was living in Tahlequah, working at NSU, having to make a lot of trips back and forth from Tahlequah to Tulsa to St. John. A lot of those were late night, 2 a.m. shift changes at the hospital, and Dan would welcome me and our family into his house when we were in Tulsa, and he was always a phone call that I could make, and that continues to this day. And I'm just very blessed to have Dan as my friend. Dan.
Well, thank you, Michael. Good afternoon. I'm very happy to be here today. You have to excuse me, I've got a little bit of a head cold with all of the stuff that's flying around the air right now. But, you know, I was thinking this morning as I was kind of making some final preparations to come here, you know, I really feel like I'm a blessed person for the opportunities I've had, basically almost like 3 careers. You know, one in the practice of law. I actively practiced for 23 years, and during that time I also served in the legislature, so I always say I practiced law to support my political habit during that time. And now, of course, you know, with the Grand River Dam Authority. And so, you know, it really has provided a lot of wonderful opportunities, and as I've looked out across the room, you know, I see people that represent each phase of that career for me. And I see back in the corner Judge David Peterson, who retired several years ago, and I'm just thinking 30 years ago I graduated from law school, and as a law student I was working for an attorney. We had a case, he was on the family docket at the time, and we went in. I think I was maybe my first year of law school, And the gentleman I was working with said, "Judge, I want to introduce you to Dan Sullivan. He's a law student at TU." And he just kind of looked at me and goes, "Sorry to hear that." So if you know Judge Peterson, you know that's a classic response. And so it's always good to see him. And I always think of his IMSA rule. If you're trying a case and you have to call a rebuttal witness, his rule was you have had to have called IMSA. You were surprised so much before you would be allowed to call a rebuttal witness. So for the lawyers in the room, that has some meaning, but it was always something that I kept in mind. Jerry Dillon, sitting here in the front, was a constituent of mine. I've known Jerry a long time, and so it's always good to see him and all the great things that you have done over the years and are continuing to do. And Otis Winters, he was introduced as a new member of this club, I guess returning to this club, has been at Grove. If you don't know Otis, you need to get to know him. I've had the pleasure of speaking a couple times to the Grove Rotary Club, which I think is like the number 3 club in terms of size in the state. But Otis played golf at Stanford. And, so I'm going to steal your thunder here because one of the things he likes to ask is, what's the difference between me and Tiger Woods? And that Otis has an NCAA championship. So, it's great to see him. And John Weiscarver, who's with me today, he's our Executive Vice President of Corporate and Strategic Communications. And so we're glad to have him. He's here to bail me out if I get into trouble and lose my place in my presentation. Let's go ahead and start, and this gives me an opportunity to talk about the Grand River Dam Authority. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, just closing in on 7 years now as CEO of this organization, is that it's kind of like the blind man describing an elephant. It's whatever you have a hold of at the time is what you think it is. And people think of G.R.D.A. in the same way. If you're a lake user, you think of law enforcement maybe, or dock permits and all those things. If you're an electric customer, you think of that and all the different things that we do. But we have a lot of facets to G.R.D.A., so this is my opportunity to kind of fill you in on a little bit of that and show you what we're up to. We are an Oklahoma Agency of Excellence. We've taken on that responsibility, and we feel like that is a goal that we continue to strive for on a daily basis. Looking at G.R.D.A. at a glance, we were created in 1935 by the Oklahoma legislature as a conservation and reclamation district for the waters of the Grand River. So the Grand River is formed by the confluence of the Neosho River and the Spring River just downstream from Oklahoma, and in the Twin Bridges area, if you know that. So the dam at Pensacola, from that point to Twin Bridges is roughly about 60 miles. So it's 60 miles north to south. And that is how we got started. Then in July of 2016, we took on the additional responsibility of the Scenic Rivers. So the Scenic Rivers Commission was folded into our organization. Ed Feit, who I also met when I was at Northeastern in Tahlequah, was a longtime administrator there. He now continues to work on that and as a G.R.D.A. employee. And so we manage the waters of Grand Lake, Lake Hudson. We have the Illinois River. We have the W.R. Holloway Reservoir, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those. An agency of excellence, in our mission statement, we have what we call the 5 E's of excellence. So, of course, our employees is our number one human capital. Our electricity, selling it at a low cost and with reliability. Economic development, always been a big part of our DNA, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. Environmental stewardship, as a reclamation and conservation district, that of course was from the very beginning. And lastly, efficiency. We want to be able to look at our customers in the eye if we ask for them to pay more for the same product, and for them to know and understand that we're doing the best we can to operate in an efficient way. By the way, we are a non-appropriated agency of the state, thank God. So we do not receive $1 from the state of Oklahoma. We generate all of our revenue and are self-sustaining. We have a board of directors of 7, and this is always an interesting thing to point out. We have 3 that are appointed by the governor, one, excuse me, one by the Speaker of the House, and one by the President Pro Tem of the Senate. Then we have gentleman Dwayne Elam on the top right, who's the city administrator in Wagner. He represents our municipal customers. And then Chris Myers, kind of in the middle of the second row, represents our cooperatives that we serve. So Joe Vandiver is our current chairman. Joe lives in Owasso, retired from Baker Hughes, does consulting work as an electrical engineer. Very bright guy, very great leadership from them. Of course, Pete Churchwell, many of you know from Tulsa. He retired as the president of PSO, moves to the lake, and has been very involved with the Grand Lake Watershed Alliance. And as I tell people, we got a twofer with Pete because he has this utility background and, of course, his passion and interest in the water. Tom Kimball from Owasso, many of you know. Tom's been involved in a lot of businesses, has a place on the lake, spends about half the week there. And then Jim Ritchie is a native of Jay, has a home here, a home on the lake, and is involved in the oil and gas business on the auction side. And then Ed Townsend at the bottom is the chairman, sole shareholder of the Bank of Grand Lake. They just changed the name. It was the Bank of Grove. Ed, pardon me, is an appointee of the governor. His term ends this year, and he's indicated that with the new bank expansion that he has other things he needs to focus on. So we appreciate his service. But we have a very good board, a very wide variety of businesses, business interests. And, excuse me, I'm going to get, thank you. And so it makes my job a lot easier and a lot more pleasurable to have a board like that with their kind of experience. When you look at our facilities, we have about 13 facilities all across the state, including we have an office in Oklahoma City. We have a partial ownership in a generating facility in Oklahoma County. And we have a facility in Cushing as well that serves as kind of our western edge of our service territory. We do have an office here in Tulsa that serves as our engineering and technical building. But the vast majority of our facilities, as you can see from the map, are in Mays County and associated with the water there. Our generation that we have to produce electricity to be able to satisfy the needs that we have to serve our customers is we have hydro, looking at our Pensacola Dam on the upper left. Then we have Kerr Dam that creates Lake Hudson. And then something that's very unique is our pump storage facility. Think of it as a large battery. We pump water up at night when the cost of electricity is the lowest. We have it available to use as hydropower during the day. So we pull all the water out of the Saline Creek arm, which just was in the paper a couple of weeks ago, of Lake Hudson. And we have that available on a very short notice to be able to run, and so it helps us chase wind and other renewable resources that are up and down throughout the day. Then we have on the bottom left, we have our Grand River Energy Center that has 2 coal units and a natural gas combined cycle unit. One of those coal units we've decommissioned as a coal unit. We spent some time upgrading our other coal unit to meet current EPA standards. And then, of course, we have the natural gas unit I'll talk about in just a moment. We do have a partial owner interest in the Red Bud plant that's operated by OG&E in Luther, Oklahoma. We have about a 38% interest in that. And then we have about almost 400 megawatts of wind. We don't own or operate any of those facilities, but we purchase the energy from them. So we have a very diverse, more diverse than any other utility in the state, primarily because of our hydro. And it gives us a great opportunity to serve our customers. You know, one of the things I want to mention as we look at the picture of Pensacola Dam, and this is what started everything for us. It was completed in 1940. So when you consider that from 1938 to 1940, this dam was constructed. You couldn't get the permits in that period of time today. Interesting story about this. There was a group of business people in Veneta. They called themselves the Rainbow Chasers. And they had, through a long series of events, had this dream and vision to have a hydroelectric facility on the Grand River. And in 1936, so consider we were formed by the legislature in 1935. In 1936, President Roosevelt, Franklin Roosevelt, some people always want to make sure which one, he was traveling around the country. That was an election year. He was down in Texas. So the Veneta City Council passed an ordinance that said any train bearing the president coming through town has to stop. Good idea. You'd be in jail today, but it was a great idea. So they actually, FDR heard about this and was very curious. The train came through, they stopped, made a big presentation, gave him a stringer of catfish, and how Oklahoma can you get, right? And they convinced him and made their case that there needed to be money funded to build the Pensacola Dam. And that is what kind of led to the federal funding. It was about a $25 million project. Interestingly enough, and I tell this and our guides tell this, and by the way, our dam is available and open for public tours. So from Memorial Day to Labor Day, if you go to our facility there on the west end of the dam, there in Langley, you can go up to the desk if you have a valid photo ID and get a tour free of charge of the dam. So it's a great thing to go see. This time of year, I recommend going in the morning. It's not air conditioned, but it's fabulous. It's Art Deco facility, terrazzo floors on the turbine deck. In fact, we had a dinner there a few years ago to celebrate the 75th anniversary. And when I started talking about that, I said, "Let's have a dinner." They looked at me like I had a third eye. Of course, the people that worked there all the time, why in the world would you want to eat here? But we had a fabulous time doing that to celebrate, what it's accomplished. But this is what started it all, and it's quite an accomplishment. It's still the longest multiple arch dam in the world. It's about a mile long. But if you look at the construction, each one of those arches is independent of the other, and they had all the concrete and all the men that you wanted under the WPA to build this, but they didn't have a lot of steel. So they had to find a way to do that, and that design is the way that works. Looking at our portfolio, kind of listed all that, about 254 megawatts of hydro. We have gas with our two facilities. Our customer-owned generation, we have about 172 megawatts. So Cushing, Coffeyville, Kansas, both have and Stillwater all have their own generation as well. Our coal, the pump storage, and the wind. So we've got about 25.5% of our portfolio, energy-wise, capacity-wise, is renewables. And so we're very happy about that mixture. This is Unit 3 that we just completed and dedicated last fall. This is a Mitsubishi Hitachi 501J. And when we commissioned this unit, this was the first Mitsubishi unit in the Western Hemisphere. And it still is the most efficient 60 hertz cycle unit in the world. That won't last long because there's a lot of competition to continue to get more efficiency out of these units. But think of it this way. These were developed in the Asian market that uses LNG as their fuel. And we have this using Oklahoma natural gas and the very low cost of natural gas. So that 60% efficiency, I know we've got some engineers here, that 60% efficiency is something that was unheard of 20 years ago. But this runs at 1600 centigrade, which is higher than the heat needed to melt steel. And the alloys and all the things that they use in these units just creates more efficiency and squeezes as much out of that unit, that BTU of natural gas as possible. So we're very happy to have that. It's about a $500 million project. And you know, the great thing is, certainly as the CEO of this organization, to dedicate that unit and having been through the process of recommending this to the board and getting all the customers to come in agreement with us to get the bonds and everything necessary. The great thing about that was the day we dedicated it, it seemed like a better decision than the day we made it. That's not something that always happens, so we're very happy about that. In looking at the cities that we serve, so the G.R.D.A has a very unique, at least unique in terms of utilities as a whole, business model. So most of our sales are wholesale. So we sell to the city of Wagner, city of Tahlequah. You see all the cities listed there. We sell it to them on a wholesale basis. They have their own utility. That utility then delivers it to the end customer. So if you live in the city of Tahlequah, you don't get a bill from G.R.D.A, you get a bill from the Tahlequah Public Works Authority. So people don't always make the connection between the two. But because those cities have their own utilities, that gives them another revenue stream beyond the traditional sales tax revenue. And as you can see, recently we totaled up all of the transfers from those cities to those utilities to the city budgets, and it was $35 million. To put that into context, over that same period, this was, I think, 2015, the city of Claremore transferred about $9 million to the general revenue of its city because it had its own utility, and the franchise tax payment from PSO to the city of Tulsa was about $9 million in round numbers. So it's very equivalent numbers, and a much smaller city, a much better revenue stream for them. So we only have one area that we have for retail sales, and that's in the Mid-America Industrial Park, and I'll talk about that again in just a moment. But looking at those municipal cities, you know, we recently had an updated study by the Oklahoma Department of Commerce looking at what is the economic impact of the G.R.D.A, and we see this tremendous growth of the cities compared to like cities across the state, and expansion in all the areas you see, insurance, real estate, and all the other areas. So we do believe, you know, we are providing economic activity, economic opportunity in all of those communities. And when you think about, you know, who we serve, those are oftentimes county seats and other, you know, very important cities within their region. Mid-America Industrial Park is home. We just listed a couple of the major corporations that have facilities there. That is our only retail sales. So those are the only people that, individual customers that get bills from the G.R.D.A for their electricity. And you'll see Google, those of you that follow that story, when they originally came in about 2006, excuse me, they announced that their investment was going to be about $500 million. Last year, or a little over a year ago now, they had gone through quite a bit of expansion. They have more expansion that they're continuing to this day, and they announced that their total investment in Pryor, Oklahoma at the Mid-America Industrial Park exceeds $2 billion. So, you know, it doesn't create a huge number of jobs just because of the nature of their business, but you look at Pryor schools and some of the others and what impact that has. The Pryor schools are not on the state aid, you know, they are self-sustaining. So, you know, the economic impact of what we're doing, and we certainly believe that that additional investment over what they originally agreed to is a direct result of the low-cost, reliable electricity that's provided by the Grand River Dam Authority, among other things. But primarily, of course. But, you know, it really is, you know, fascinating to see. You know, we have several of these businesses that we've been talking to and the expansion efforts that they're going through. So we see some really positive signs coming from that area. Team G.R.D.A, you know, just looking at our overall, we have you know, in round numbers, about 600 employees. We have a significant payroll and impact on the state, and we we certainly feel, and I can't see all the exact numbers from the angle I'm looking at, but you can see it's about $450 million in revenue. Our economic impact, total impact on almost $500 million worth of revenue is about $825 million. So it exceeds our revenue by how that's leveraged across the economy. This is something I'm very happy to report. This is our credit ratings over the years, and you can see where we were several years ago. We were virtually junk status, and through some significant changes that were made by my predecessors and others and the board, significant change occurred, and then we've had the opportunity to experience 2 credit rating increases since I've been there, and it's great to see the recognition in the bond market and the financial sector of the great things that are going on here and the plans that we put into place to make G.R.D.A. a going concern into the future. And looking at economic development, this is something that just came out recently I thought was really fascinating, is looking at what are the land values around Grand Lake, and how does that compare to other lakes around the state. And you can see that there's a tremendous difference between Grand Lake and even Lake Texoma, which is the next on the list, in terms of real estate values, $25 million plus homes on the lake, and it's a tremendous investment around there. And then you see the economic development. That's a drawing of the new Shangri-La Hotel on Monkey Island, which was just opened a little over a year ago, and continue to see a lot of investment and a lot of quality things that are happening there. The impact has even had a significant increase in agriculture land in the 4 counties that surround the lake. So compared to other parts of the state, those areas have really shown a tremendous increase. One thing that I always like to point out is, even though we're a non-appropriated agency, we are a part of the state of Oklahoma. And we do provide services on behalf of the state that, had the G.R.D.A. not existed, would be on the backs of the state of Oklahoma. As an example, Scenic Rivers Commission. When we took them over, they had virtually been bled dry in terms of their annual appropriations. And now we've been able to pump that up and provide a better presence of law enforcement on the river, picking up trash and all the other services necessary to make that a much more enjoyable experience. And I'm happy to say that last year we had no drownings on any of our waters. We made it through Memorial Day without any drownings. And our emphasis on safety, not only for our employees, but safety for the general public, making sure you wear your life jacket when you're out on the water, is paying a dividend. And that's something that we want to continue to do. And we hope and pray that that is something that continues. But our law enforcement, water quality, we have a water lab in our building there at Langley where you would go to sign up for the tours of the dam. And we have students with OSU, OU, and other universities working there, doing research and doing activities, and the tourism and all of those other things. We spend about $11 million a year doing functions on behalf of the state at no cost to the taxpayers. So I think I've used most of my time, but I'll leave it up to you, Mr. President, if we have time for any questions. Or okay? Yes.
We saw words and stuff in the paper for a while about our brilliant state legislature thinking they might sell G.R.D.A. What's the latest on that?
Well, fortunately, the brilliant ones came to the conclusion that it wasn't a good idea. So, again, it was an educational opportunity to go in and talk about the things that I've just gone through today, about what are we doing on behalf of the state and what is the real impact. If you broke up G.R.D.A. and sold it, there might be a one-time windfall, but I'll tell you that the cities that we serve that have made those payments for the bonds all these years and have signed long-term contracts, they're under contract the year 2042, they would take the position that any excess money that's generated would belong to them, not to the state. Yes, sir.
It's not
That is one thing we can't really talk about. But the question is, how much power does Google use? And I will tell you, they use more than some cities that we serve. And when you think about all of the computer equipment that they operate, and we don't know exactly all the things that they do, it's a tremendous amount. And the great thing about it, it's 24/7, and it's very steady compared to industry or homes where you're up and down depending on what's going on. So we love Google. And, I mean that sincerely. I love them as a customer. But they're a great corporate citizen as well. And what they've done for the schools in the Mays County area, their work with robotics and other things has really been tremendous. Jerry?
Considering that we're the Dust Bowl, is it true that we have more miles of shoreline than any other state?
I think we're at least one or two in that. And we do have a lot, and one of the things that we talk about at G.R.D.A. is we in northeastern Oklahoma have taken for granted for years the quantity of water that we have. One thing we cannot take for granted any longer is the quality of water. And as much as I hate to admit it, we love electricity, but one thing we can't live without is water. And we've got to make sure that we protect that. We've got a great board that understands that and recognizes the value and the economic impact of that, tourism and life and all the things associated with that. So we take that very seriously, and we're continuing to work with our partners in other states. 2/3 of the watershed of Grand Lake comes from Kansas. So we have to work with others to make sure that whatever comes in is not going to cause problems, because it's just a giant petri dish sitting out there in the sun, when you have a lake like that. So, thank you all.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate you spending part of your day with us today. We appreciate everything you're doing to lead the G.R.D.A. and all the obviously economic impact that they have. And the civil engineer inside me was just giddy with excitement when hearing you talk about dams and power grids and stuff. So excellent. Thank you for feeding that inner engineer in me. So a book recognizing your time with us today will be presented to our adopted school, Celia Clinton Elementary. And of course, the title is Down by the River? Down by the River, yeah, Down by the River. So thank you for your time with us. Okay, a couple upcoming programs. Next week, we'll have Jeff Stava and Tony Moore with The Gathering Place. And they've got a big announcement coming out Friday, I saw in the paper. So they're going to update us on the status of that. And so you won't want to miss that. And then the week after that, on June 20th, Rose Washington is going to be with us. She's the chair of the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City, and she's going to talk to us about how America's economic policies are impacting Tulsa. And of course, she is also the heads up the Tulsa Economic Development Commission, so you won't want to miss Rose. She'll be a great speaker. And then the week after that is the last week of this Rotary year. That's sad, Charles, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I encourage you to go out, share your Rotary story with your friends this week, and then don't forget to bring your friends to Rotary next week. We are dismissed.